Welcome to the XP Billionaires. I am Rayfe. We've got Irene Rogue, Sky Knight with me. Today's going to be a fun
Hello.
one. We're getting started on talking about the holidays for those of you who are watching us week to week or listening to us week to week. I got to get used to not using the word watch. I don't know, maybe I was meant for television. Who knows? But
Oh,
as I was.
that scoff was rude. I'm sorry.
Uh, I'm used to it. It's okay. Uh, so, like I was saying, if you're listening to us week to week, this is going to be the start of some holiday talk. So I apologize if that's a little too early for you guys. For those of you not listening to us week to week, this is still going to be a good episode for you because we're going to be talking about something really great. Today we will be discussing some shopping ideas for you guys. So we're getting into the holidays. So what do we all want for Christmas? We all want video games.
Duh.
Well, yeah, we just want to add to our backlog. That's really what we want to do. We just want to make that just like endless.
Despite the fact
And
that we currently own video games that we will never be able to finish all of them with our current lifespans, but still, we must have more.
exactly. So here's the thing,
Also,
though.
apologies if things get a little noisy. The cat has come over.
Okay. All right. That's fine. With all the games that are getting advertised for Christmas, this is the one to buy. What about the ones that got overshadowed? That didn't get their chance to shine, whether it be current, whether it be back in their day. You don't necessarily need a brand new video game to play. You can always check out your local used shops. Definitely support those guys and still get your vintage stuff. Like that's important. I cannot stress enough how important it is to keep the used shops going. But so what we're going to do today is we've each picked out two games, one from a retro era, basically anything from the PS2 era or below. And we've also picked out one modern title, so PS3 era or higher. And these are some of what we consider hidden gems within the video game or within the RPG world anyway, that we recommend you to buy if you ever see them in the bins or if you're just looking for something new. We kept some modern options just so you can still probably find them at your local current video game store. But if you're checking out the vintage store, you see this in a bin, you see it at a good price, go for it. It's one which we definitely recommend. So let's start with Sky. I'm interested to hear what you're talking about with regards to your retro game.
Yes. Mine is a complete deviation for me. Kodelka for the PS1. It was the precursor to the Shadow Hearts series, and it's this weird combination of survival horror stylings. There's no shops. You pick up all your weapons and gear by interacting with the environment. And it has this strange hybrid turn-based system where you move on a grid, on a small grid, but it's otherwise like a standard turn-based RPG. It's very short, but really interesting, and it's a great way to sort of launch yourself into Shadow Hearts after that. It's all about three people exploring a very creepy old monastery, which has had several uses in the past, including some very, very evil ones. And for its age, actually, the graphics are really good for its age, especially being PS1 and how ugly most 3D was at that time. I took a look on eBay, and they have it for around 80, but I imagine you could probably find it cheaper than that if you look across it in a store.
Yeah, that's interesting. It was a really, really good mix of RPG and really, I feel like it was also a precursor to some of the survival horror games that have come out in the past. I know it kind of floated on the coattails of Resident Evil being really, really close in that regard, but they decided to give it that more turn-based feel as opposed to a bit more actiony combat.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Sky played a horror game.
it's not really a horror game. There's not really any jump scares. but stylistically, it's horror. Like but they don't do like creepy. It doesn't do creepy suspense or jump scares.
Okay.
Well, there is a little bit of gore, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to Corpse Party, how gory is it?
There are a couple moments that are a little extreme, but on average, not at all.
Okay. Also, listeners, by the way, if you are looking for a good horror title and aren't squeamish, Corpse Party. It is a lot less innocent than it sounds.
So I've heard. I am not going to play it.
Yeah, do not.
All right, Sky. At this point, let's keep the train going. Let's talk about what your modern game is.
Oh, okay. So my modern one is the original Knights of Azure. It was an early PS4 title. It was Gust's first cut at a new IP. Involving demons and ladies who love ladies, and I'm all here for it. It's so great. It'll be a little easy for someone who plays action games regularly, but conceptually it's great. The demons are fun. The art is great. And it's not a huge time sink. Plus the protagonist has the option of a ton of different weapons and actual literal demon transformations, some of which are really fun. Took a quick look at the price. We're looking at around the $40 range nowadays.
Yeah, I wondered if you would select one of the new Gust IPs for your modern game. I know it's been one of your favorite developers for as long as I can remember. Right back from the days we first had the first Atelier games for the PS2. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting deviation from what they were so used to. So being so bright and colorful, even the Arts and Ellico games, even though they were fairly serious at times, it was a really vibrant world.
Yeah.
And to see that change to something so dark and really gloomy in its overall final production,
it is.
it was nice to see.
Yeah. No, and it's good that way. But what it does, it may be dark and gloomy, but it keeps a rich color palette. It doesn't heavily browns are not in its color palette, and I love it so much because I'm so goddamn sick of brown and gray.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. And like the story pacing was good, even though, yeah, you are right, it was definitely a shorter game. Something you could probably clear in 20 hours if you tried hard enough.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's a lot of it is pretty easy, but there are a couple of the boss fights that are actually reasonably challenging. So it's not, it's not too bad difficulty wise overall.
mhm. No, those are some excellent choices. Yeah. I don't know why don't I go next for my two choices?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start with my retro choice, and I've picked something that I don't think a lot of people have had a good opportunity to know of its existence. And it's a real shame. So my recommendation for you, if you're an anime fan, if you are a fan of the Gundam franchise, my recommendation is an RPG called MS Saga: A New Dawn. This was a fantastic turn-based RPG with a very original story set in the Mobile Suit Gundam universe. Um, Basically, it was using suits that spanned from the original Gundam series all the way up to Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. Not my personal favorite series, but at least they've given us a lot to work with. The game included a customization system for the mobile suits that I feel was probably one of the inspirations for doing mobile suit model kit customization, what they call kit bashes, where you would just mix different parts together to create a cohesive mobile suit design. There was a fantastic palette of color options. There was the ability to switch parts from head and torso, if I remember it right. Then it was shoulders, arms, knees, or then I think it might have just been legs after that.
Legs.
But it was just this is a pair of legs. But at the same time, there was just so many ways to just make those mobile suit designs your own. And yes, those parts did have stats attached to them, and you obviously were going to build a certain way for the specific pilots based on their stats. But it was just a really, really fun thing to do. We spent a lot more time doing the customizations and doing the gameplay just because you just wanted to see what options you had, especially once you got to end game and you had so many of the different parts. There was just so much more you could do, so much more you could create, so much more you could design. But I mean, yeah, when it came to getting through the story, getting to the final boss, or that final bonus fight against the Burning Gundam, oh my god, having to do it just right was a bit of a challenge. But the turn-based combat was fun. It was fast, very, very full of motion, and the story was very good. It was very compelling. It made you feel like you were watching a Gundam anime series, at least from a storyline perspective. Now, here's the drawback. If I've enticed you into getting the game, average online pricing, you're looking at around $120.
Is
Not
that
the
new or
worst
used?
thing. That was a mixture of both, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I saw like a sealed and graded copy that was going for like $450 at one point when I was looking online.
Yeah, but
But
sold. Yeah.
but even the used copies, somebody was trying to sell a copy of the game without its box for 75.
Yeah.
It is a little bit pricey, but I gotta say it's definitely worth its weight in gold. It's got a bit of a difficulty spike as you progress through the game, but it's a challenge, it's fun, and you want to keep going every time you play it. I've played it through, I believe, twice at this point. It's a gem, and you definitely should try it if that's your thing.
I think I've played it through twice too, and it's fantastic. Um it's not easy. Like it's not super hard, but if you like a game with a decent difficulty, like this should suit you.
Definitely. But yeah, that's going to be my best old school gem. There's definitely other ones I could suggest, but at the same time,
We only
this is
have half an
probably
hour.
oh, that too. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now let's go on to my modern pick. For my modern pick, I'm going back to the underappreciated Wii U system, with one of the few fun, bright, and colorful RPGs that was on it. My choice for that is Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE. So when I heard about this game, finding out that Atlas's Shin Megami Tensei team was collaborating with Intelligent Systems to make a crossover game between Megaten and Fire Emblem, I'll be honest, I nearly wet myself. Like that was really like a fantastic bit of news for me.
That must have been an interesting day.
It,
I hope you were at
certainly
home.
I believe I was actually. Now, the final product did not end up being what we were expecting. I was expecting to see characters from the past Mega 10 games and in a true fusion of worlds style.
Yeah.
But that's not what we got.
Let me interject here for a moment, though. One of the reasons that happened, though, is because the game didn't end up being the same thing they originally announced.
Right.
So yeah, we had reasons to expect something else because the game did change significantly over its development. But go on.
Yeah. So for those of you unfamiliar with it, the premise here is in your true Shin Megami Tensei fashion, you start out in modern day Japan, and all hell breaks loose, literally. Demons start flooding the world, and the only people that can do anything about it are idols. I kid you not, like pop stars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, pop stars.
Yeah, absolutely. So what the game actually focuses on is the main character is actually part of a talent agency. But at one point, they end up getting access to this parallel world where they bond with characters from the Fire Emblem universe. So in an almost Persona-esque style, closer to Persona 5, really, because when you go into combat, your characters actually change their outfits. You have this very, very intense, vibrant, combo-based structure in terms of combat. It's still turn-based, but you're chaining attacks as you go, all on the same turn. And the combat was just so much fun. As you progress through the game, eventually you could do like duet super moves with other characters as you've like bonded with them throughout the story. And for what it was vibrant, it was colorful, even though like we're dealing with something similar to the apocalypse. You've got this beautiful stage as your combats as your combat arena when you're fighting, and you're basically all you do as you progress is you hear the crowd going wild and loving everything that happens that you do. I don't know, there's just something about it that was really cool. Now, one drawback to it is that its localization did suffer from some censorship, and that was a big point of contention for me and for a lot of people, especially when the game first came out. But I still felt that it didn't detract enough to make the game unenjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's a Nintendo. It's all about Nintendo being silly about censorship. That's what it is.
Interestingly enough, they tend to pick and choose though, because like Bayonetta 2.
Yeah. The thing is, I think it's a little different when it's something like Bayonetta 2 is marketed as a mature game. Was
I guess.
your Mirage?
Mirage was actually rated T here by the ESRB, but that was because they had planned the censorship. See, the censorship here was that they actually took an entire chapter of the game. Not only did they redesign the visual elements of it, and I'll explain what those elements are in a second, but they also brought in they brought in the Japanese voice cast and revoiced the entire game, the entire chapter of the game to accommodate this specific aspect of idol culture. Now, that idol culture they're talking about is the gravure scene, where a lot of idols, both men and women, not to discriminate, do magazines, photo books where they're in swimwear or lingerie or.
Yeah, but I can understand why that would be a contentious thing over here.
No, and I understand that, but it is actually a huge staple in Japanese idol culture. So it's the fact that they removed it kind of takes away from the cultural aspect of it. And yeah, like, the average person isn't going to understand that, but the target audience for a game like that would. And I think that's where my biggest issue with that is.
I think also, like, I don't think if they had left it in though, they would have gotten a mature rating on them for sure.
Oh yeah.
There's no way they would have been able to swing that teen rating with that in there.
Yeah, but why couldn't they? Like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should have been M rated. Like
yeah, there's nothing wrong with including it and putting the appropriate rating, but I feel like there was something wrong with removing it. Regardless, I'm not trying to detract from you guys buying the game. I think it's a fantastic game regardless. You should all play it. And for those of you lucky enough, it might still be in the Wii U section of your current game store. Average price right now, you're looking at probably around $60. But it's a lot of fun. I will admit, regardless of, my personal issues with the censorship, I think it was a fantastic game. Definitely pick it up.
All right. We should move on to Irene now. I'm just watching the clock.
No problem.
Right.
Yep.
I guess I got to start with the retro, eh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so for retro titles, I found this actually a lot easier than the modern titles. The Wild Arms games, but especially Wild Arms 3. So a little bit of a story, because the first Wild Arms actually has, personal significance for me. When I was a kid, kept renting the same copy of Wild Arms from the video rental store because we used to have those kids. I swear they did exist. But I rented it over and over and over, and I was just so enamored with it. And I was sad that I kept having to give it back because, of course, I wanted to finish it. And it was a full-fledged RPG. Those aren't, they're not short. This was around the time where my stepdad started dating my mother. And I was not happy with my stepdad dating my mother at the time. So he, in his bid to sort of, make me accept him a little more, he actually managed to find a copy of this obscure game even at the time. And we drove out into what felt like the middle of nowhere. It was dark, and he went into the store, came out, and just plopped it in my lap. Brand new sealed copy of Wild Arms. Nice. For no reason. And his gambit did eventually pay off. I did accept him. Now he's painting my house, so But at the time, I was mad to be sharing my mom. So it has a little bit of a personal significance, and that series has been kind of held near and dear ever since. They actually remade the original in the PS2 era with Wild Arms Alter Code F, so if people can't find the original PS1 game, there's a PS2 version that's available. Though it got panned a little bit, and I don't know why. It was the same game. At least from my perspective. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But out of all of them, 3 was definitely my favorite. It had a lot of really pro-environmentalist themes. And the idea that, the entire world has been rendered next to uninhabitable. You had to suspend your disbelief a little bit because, there was no water. The oceans were made of sand, and there were no plants. No one had ever seen flowers before. And you were on this quest to sort of find your identity, find your parent, and got wrapped up in the mysteries revolving around why the world was the way it was, which I thought was really interesting. Plus the characters were fun and actually super accessible right now because it was released on PS2 for PS4, so it's $15. One of the best of the Wild Arms series. But if you can find any of them, really, I would highly recommend them.
Yeah, I noticed Wild Arms 5 is really expensive right now, but I'm not sure about the others.
Yeah, Alter Code F clocks in at around 80, and the at the new price game essentially, not super expensive, but still a lot for PS2 era game.
Yes.
They were solid titles, and of course, in the PS2 era, rarity breeds pricing, unfortunately, and they didn't print a ton of them.
No.
As for the modern, unless there's something else.
No. Actually, I was about to say, well, okay, what about the modern one then?
Oh, okay, perfect. We are totally in sync.
Yeah.
So modern was a lot harder for me when I sat down to think about it, because I would think oh, well, this RPG, and then go, oh, but it ended up winning awards. So it's not really a hidden gem,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it, they garnered enough critical acclaim that I wouldn't necessarily call them hidden. So I had to really rack my brain and think about it for a little while. So I thought what I'd do is I would promote basically a remaster. And that would be .hack GU Last Recode. It is a PS2 era game, but they remastered it and ported all 3 of them over to PS4. And I would really love them to do that with the original .hack games as well, because I was this close to mentioning them over Wild Arms, but Wild Arms won out. But if you can find the original .hacks, quick plug, do buy them. They're good. But yeah, I love the .hack universe just because it's got this blending of science fiction and the fantastical that's just so cool. So .hack GU follows Haseo, a former player killer in an MMO called Hi Sweet Pea. Sorry, my cat's interrupting.
The cat is the honorary 4th member of the podcast. Cough.
A little bit. She's mad that I haven't paid enough attention to her today. Anyway, it follows Haseo, the former player killer, in an MMO called The World. And his journey to sort of figure out what happened to him, what's going on, takes him into its hidden depths. And it has this sort of techno mysticism kind of woven all through the story. Because like while the world is like it's an MMO, there's almost like the world is code. It's an MMO. It's something that most people are familiar with. At least most people who listen to this podcast are, if not, tangentially aware of. They're either, aware that MMOs exist or had their lives eaten by WoW in the early 2000s. But there's also these, how do I explain? Like they're almost like magical, godlike forces that work in the world itself. Like it almost feels like forces beyond the understanding of what a rational coding environment can provide are working through the game. And I always really love stories that really combine those sci-fi and fantasy aspects. So it's a really fun game. Plus the characters are cool and the combat is still fun. And it's brand new. You can find it for like, new game price or less. I mean, I picked it up on Steam last week on sale.
You're right. Yeah, that's definitely the case. And with the Recode remaster, for those of you who have played the game before and want to play it again, there is a fourth game included into it. While it is a very short storyline, it is definitely worth playing, if only to play around with Haseo and the fifth form that they gave him. I gotta say, it was amazing, and I wish it was incorporated into the original trilogy.
Is it something that they just added for the remaster, or was it something that they had planned and just never really fleshed out enough to make it stand on its own?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was actually pre-planned back in the PS2 days, but I don't think it would have been given how short it was. Like this is something you can clear like in 2-3 hours.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like maybe they had started on it and then they realized they didn't want to carry it a little longer, but couldn't justify charging a full price for it.
It's possible, but I don't know. I think it was more likely just because of the remaster. Like when you do a remaster, you really want to do at least add something to your game. Like a direct, like modernized port is one thing, but adding something or even doing what Yakuza did and do a full reconstruction of two of your games from PS2 to PS4, like that's what really, really makes a good remaster or a remake. But
though I would say that like for .hack games, I think I would be forgiving of a remaster that's literally just like a cleaned up port, given how hard it is to actually find copies of the PS2 games.
Oh,
they printed so few of them that a remaster that's just a direct port is still very much worth the money.
And that's fine. I would still like something new.
Oh, for sure. It's more of a bonus.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's more of a bonus because, like as I said, like they printed so few of these games that they're extremely hard to get at. It's also one of the reasons why I hesitated at mentioning the original .hack games as like my hidden gem, just because there's 4 of them, and the 4th one they printed like 5 of them, and they're so expensive now.
That is, yeah.
Like you can I think you can almost get the first 3 for the same price you're going to drop on the last one, because they printed almost none of them.
It'll definitely be less. At least here at some of my local used shops, I've seen copies of Quarantine in the shops, and they were selling it at $180.
Oh, yeah.
Was the price. And the other games were still in the 40, 50 range-ish.
So
the first game was usually less, though.
Yeah, and they were fantastic games. So if they were ever to release like a modern port of just the first 4 games, like I would be totally down for that even if they changed nothing, just because there were so few of them made. It basically, for me, it's like now these great games are accessible to so many more people.
Well, yeah, that's it exactly. Like, I struggled with that for a really long time because, me being obsessed with Suikoden, and for so long, they were so inaccessible.
Yeah, and you came into gaming late, like later than the rest of us. So it would have been likely just past the point of Suikoden's like prime in its way,
Yeah. So but now like up to Suikoden 4 is available on the PSN.
Yeah, so they did a good job in actually bringing those back, and I think like for a lot of the hidden gems type games where it's like they garnered this huge cult following, but the number of copies we were able to ship weren't that great. Also, we didn't print that many, but it's a really beloved game. Hey, maybe we should make those available just as a straight port even now. I mean, like, just making that available to a wider audience would be huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, I as far as I'm concerned, companies that don't do that, like, they're just throwing money away. Like, you have this product, you could be selling it, and you're not. Why?
I'm sure there might be some complexity related to licensing, but
sure, and that's certainly what it is sometimes. But it can't be that bad most of the time.
yeah, it really is unfortunate sometimes. I think of all of I look at my PS2 game shelf and I'm like, man, what I wouldn't give for like a port of the Xenosaga games, right?
Yeah.
Just a PS4 port of those.
Yeah.
And Persona 4 Golden, because again, it was only released on the Vita, which had a limited circulation. So a game that was already kind of limited circulation was put on a handheld with limited circulation again. And Persona 4 was very good.
Yeah, and Golden's easily the best version of it. So.
Exactly.
All right, I think we're at about time, aren't we?
Yeah,
Probably.
Yeah, well, that's definitely it. So for all you shoppers out there, you know what to get yourselves for Christmas or what to ask for. If you guys have any other recommendations, definitely send them to us on Twitter. You can send them to me at Billionaires XP if you've got any hidden gems that you want me to give a try. And Irene, what about you? Where can they send them to you?
I'm at iRogue_XP, so like an iPhone, but Rogue instead. Because rogues are the best. On Twitter, and that's mainly the place to reach me these days, actually. Still standing up the Twitch channel. Sorry it's taken so long, guys.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely get there. And Sky, and we'll send. Where can they send you both your recommendations and unpopular opinions?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter.
All right, awesome. And just so you guys know, we are Canadians, and it is getting cold here.
There's
So
snow.
yeah, it's not great. So please buy us some coffees if you like what you're listening to. Keep us warm at night and even during the day.
Yeah, because like the day's not much better, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, coffee.com/XP Billionaires. And again, you can check out our WordPress, xpbillionaires.wordpress.com. Thank you again for listening. Thank you to my hosts. And once again, we will see you next week. Bye now.
Bye.